Salvete omnes. Today we're going to talk about the ablative absolute, one of the most important grammatical constructions in Latin. So, to begin, the ablative absolute is a grammatical construction that usually contains two things, a noun and a participle in the ablative case. Grammatically, the ablative absolute is a subordinate clause. That would be a group of words with a subject and a verb that cannot stand alone. There are two kinds of participles that you will find in an ablative absolute. One is a present active participle, and the way that we would recognize those is either the endings NTE or NTIBUS, or a perfect passive participle recognized by the endings long A, long O, long IS. Generally, ablative absolutes occur at the beginning of the sentence, or they will be set off by commas. Let's look at a couple examples. Pueris clemantibus, magister iratus est. Notice pueris clemantibus, that's your ablative absolute. Or Aurelia vocibus auditis in atrium irrupit. Our ablative absolute there is set off by commas, vocibus auditis. Now, when translating an ablative absolute, you must add a word, just like the other uses of the ablative. For example, the ablative of time, means or manner, etc. So, our literal translation, add with the noun and the ablative, participling, that's if you have a pap, or with the noun and the ablative, having been ed'd, that's if you had a p cubed, a perfect passive participle. So the two examples above would be translated, with the boys shouting, the teacher is angry. Notice in clemantibus, you got the NTE. We've added our word with. Pueris, the boys become what's theoretically the subject, and clemantibus is a pap shouting. The second one, Aurelia, with the voices having been heard, burst into the atrium. Notice once again we added with. The vocibus becomes the subject, the voices, and this is a p cubed, having been heard. Now, this literal translation tends to sound a little bit awkward, but I want you to rest assured that if you want to always stay with literal, I'm perfectly fine with that. But if you want to have a more polished sounding translation, instead of adding with, you might add when, after, since, because, while, if, although. And the context will help you to decide which one of these words to add. So, another way to translate those example sentences we just saw would be, since the boys are shouting, the teacher is angry. Or Aurelia, after the voices had been heard, burst into the atrium. Often, as I said earlier, this translation will sound more polished, but as I said earlier, the good news is that you can always translate them either way. Thank you for your attention and have a great day.